Right. Hi, everyone, and good morning. I'm Megan, and this is Sianneh, as you guys just heard. And we're going to learn a little bit about her and her career and what she can tell us about the sports business industry. So, first of all, I think this is a question that I would get a lot when I was a sports reporter, which is, how did you get into sports? But it's, how have you kind of got to where you are in your career today?
Yeah. I'll get to how I got in sports, but I honestly never knew that I could work in HR in sports. My career started right out of college, and I was a recruiter for insurance agency where I was essentially, this was back when Yahoo Jobs was a thing. So if you're as old as me, you'll realize what that was. So I was pulling resumes off of Yahoo Jobs and cold calling, and it was the worst job ever. But I definitely learned that discomfort of cold calling and building relationship and really selling the organization. So I've been super lucky with every job that I've had to figure out what I'm taking away from it. I then went into staffing for a nonprofit organization, and that really taught me communicating across cultures, right? It's in-home services, so home health aides, and really building relationships, and people communicate differently if you're from a different country. And then I went into more of HR consulting at a very young age, but more with a telecommunications company. And there I learned the power of a team, and having leaders that were a little bit older than me, but having that skill set and really being able to learn from people. And that was where I had my first review, where I was only a solid. And I was upset about being a solid, but I remember it. And I remember the feedback and just how important that feedback was at that time in my career. And then I went into, again, a nonprofit organization, doing some human resources, learning the benefits side of everything. And again, the power of a team. And that was my first experience of moving from peer to leader. And as we all know, when we're leading managers now, that's a really difficult position to be in. So really took that away from there. And also there I had a great leader who taught me just how to be vulnerable as a leader. And I have been able to just hone that in as a leader now. So I've been super fortunate on the different jobs that I've had throughout my career. And then in 2011, I joined the Timberwolves. And like I started with, I never knew that I could work in HR in a professional sports organization. And with the Timberwolves, which I've been since 2011, so 13 seasons. When we're in sports, we talk about our years and seasons. And as you just learned, we're starting our 13th Lynx season. I'm starting my 13th Lynx season tonight. My primary responsibilities with the team are really focusing on our employee experience. A couple years back, I started transitioning the way we think about our employees and treating our employees like we treat our customers. And our customers with the Timberwolves are our fans and our members, and we are hyper-focused on making sure they have a great experience from the time they leave their driveway to the time they get back to their driveway. And we need that same thought when we're thinking about our employees. And so my team is kind of segmented. I have talent acquisition, which is similar to the sales process. And then I have my HR team, and that's really my retention and the entire employee experience from the time they're onboarded to when they're terminated. And just respectful terminations at any point, like just really focusing on that. And then I have DEI, which is new to me, and I think we're gonna talk about a little bit as well. So I kind of have my three consciences on my shoulders with my head of HR, my head of talent acquisition, and my head of DEI. So that's kind of what I tap into to make sure that we're looking at that full employee experience.
Yeah, let's talk about DEI actually, because hearing, having those three buckets that you have and those responsibilities, that's a lot for one person. And I think, especially after George Floyd, a lot of companies were adding DEI people, and it often fell to women and or people of color, or both, in the instance of you and I. So how have you approaching taking on that responsibility, being a woman of color yourself, and kind of knowing the impact that work can have?
Yeah, I would say our DEI journey began formally and being intentional about DEI in 2018. We have a lot of responsibility as a professional sports team to our community, to our fans, to our sponsors, but also to our employees. So we have to look at DEI in maybe a wider lens than some organizations. So we started looking at how we can be less performative when it comes to DEI on many different aspects. If you've been to a game, there are some games where we have heritage nights. And there was a time when we were selling heritage nights for revenue. And so we totally went away from that model, and we are, again, like I said, focusing on being less performative and more intentional. We started looking at ERGs. We've actually always had a Women in Sports Leadership Council, and that is something that we just believe in as an organization, and really increasing the representation of women within professional sports. And it's kind of showing. Our leadership team is 50% female and 50% male. And we have 40% females on staff in general across the organization. So that's always been something we've been focused on. But post George Floyd's murder, we learned a lot. We learned a lot about communication and empathy. And our office is in the middle of some of the unrest that was going on throughout the city. So we had to pivot. That journey that we started in 2018, it was accelerated. We were kind of in the not sure what we should do mode pre-George Floyd. And that really just accelerated not trying to make sure we're doing the right thing to just doing something. And it was communication. And during the pandemic where our staff weren't on site, it was a challenge, as I'm sure many people experienced, but we started doing, which one thing I think was really impactful, were community conversations. And for those, they're an opportunity for us to discuss tough things. We had police officers, we had the mayor, and just having real conversations about what people were experiencing. We had organizations that were in South Minneapolis and boots on the ground, and our staff were able to ask questions that maybe they weren't comfortable asking before. And that's something that we do every month. We continue to do it. If there's a celebration month, which we call celebration month, so like Women's History Month, or it's AAPI month and Mental Health Awareness Month this month, and we bring in resources that we either have through our sponsorships or just our community networks. And so that is really impactful. We've seen a little decline with staff coming back into the office, but we measure and we kind of try to understand where we can continue to change with that. So it's, also having a basketball team is predominantly Black. So we need to speak up. We need to be comfortable, maybe not always being on the safe side, right? So it's something that I think we're really lucky that I'm surrounded by staff members and leaders that were okay with speaking up. So it doesn't just rest on my shoulders. As a Black woman, for me, DEI is something that now that I'm the DEI lead, I see myself as the consultant, right? And really giving everyone the tools that they need so they can be responsible for their areas of how we can be more inclusive and be more diverse, which that is, more measurable. But the inclusion is really where I see us making improvements. And we look at it through the lens of our marketing. We have some great female gear now. We didn't always have that. I thought my microphone went out. What we do in the community is also comprehensive and less performative, but also it ties to what we're doing within our organization. We have 6 ERGs across our 250 staff. So some of the groups are 3 people. Some of the groups are 40 with our female ERGs, but we provide the same resources to everyone. So I think it's just holding people accountable and being open. And to me, DEI is the curiosity and really, as an HR lead, teaching our leaders to show empathy, right? Because everyone's different. I have a Gen Zer at home. I have 2 actually. I just realized I have a younger Gen Z too. And his approach to work is different. He's in the workforce now, and there's some days where he's just not feeling it. Like recently, which this is me accepting everyone is who they are. He came home with his name badge, and he used the nickname. And I was like, just like screaming inside, like that's not professional, but it's real. Like having a Gen Zer at home really helps me understand, like leading across generations, understanding that everyone's different. In his case, he wants to be addressed a specific way. And as leaders, we understand those types of things. So I think just looking at DEI in all the different aspects of what it is, and using our real life experience that we all have, really makes us authentic leaders.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Well, speaking of leadership, I think something that is really important to your job as chief people officer too is leading people through transition, right? Now, whether that transition is you get a new boss or a new CEO, or maybe the team's being sold.
Maybe an ownership transition.
We don't know. But when things are like that are uncertain, how do you help the staff at the Timberwolves and the Lynx kind of manage that and get through it?
Yeah, I think change is difficult for everyone. And like in our case right now, it's the unknown, right? So we host quarterly all staff meetings, and we start with the state of the business. And staff think they want to know everything, but you don't share everything, and they don't understand the total concepts of everything. So really communicating what's important for them to know and reinforcing, it's kind of business as usual. We're still here. We understand that our objective is to ensure that our fans are having a fun time when they're at the games, and we all play a responsibility into making that happen. And being open to questions, right? There's like I said, there's some things that just we aren't able to answer, but as much clarity as we can provide, I think that is what's really helped us manage through change. And we honestly, we've seen change a lot. We've had, 6 different coaches throughout the time that I've been with the team. And each time a coach changes, the entire staff changes, and the mentality of the new leadership teams coming in impacts how much access we have to players, what type of marketing that we may or may not be able to do, social media posts. So that impacts their day-to-day. So we kind of have to be able to pivot and be agile in what we do on an everyday basis anyway. I think what's different with us is everything's so public.
Yeah.
When there is change. So we have staff that you can read what potentially could be happening on a player front or a coaching front or ownership front on Star Tribune.
In the Minneapolis Star Tribune. Subscribe.
Yeah. Or on Twitter or anything like that. So we really have to be proactive. And the league also has mandates of what we can and what we cannot communicate and at what time. So we see a lot of frustration of if there's a player transaction or anything like that, we literally can't put anything out for our players. If it does impact the staff until it's approved. So there's so many just rules and regulations that we have to follow that we have to educate our staff on understanding as well too. So change is hard for all. For my kids, it's hard moving from the pre-K room to the next room and all of that, so.
For sure. I think it's hard for everyone. Speaking of that though, when you are having a moment like this where not only you've got, ownership stuff and the regular day-to-day, but also the teams are doing really well. The women's basketball has never been more in the spotlight than it is right now. The Timberwolves are in the playoffs and have been doing well, sort of. Recently, a little bit worse. But anyways.
We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to fix anything.
They're going to fix it tonight. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it, guys. But when you have more spotlight on you, even more than regular, does that change how you do your job, or how do you kind of prepare to be in those big moments?
Yeah, I think there's 2 pieces of it, right? Big moments are great. We kind of manage our business on the just being 50 game ready. So 50 games essentially means you'll get into playoffs, and that just propels you into whatever is next. If it could be round 3 next week, or it could be finals, we run our business in that way, and meaning that we have staffing plans, we have our marketing plans set up, and everything is ready to go. And so we've gone through a lot of seasons where we weren't a 50 game win team. So we've been ready for a long time, and so we are embracing this, and our staff it's fun. It's a fun environment to be in, but also remember, we have 4 championship rings with our Minnesota Lynx, so it's not new for us. It's just new for the guys.
It is new for the guys.
So the business staff, we support all of the franchises. We actually have 4 franchises. We have our Lynx, we have the Timberwolves, we have an NBA 2K video game team, which is very popular. And then we have a development league team down in Iowa. So we are running year round. And so it's just always being on and just ready to flip that switch. And this year we've been lucky enough to be able to utilize those skills that we had in place. The other side of it is it's hard when we aren't a 50-win team. Because we're on the court of public opinion, and it impacts our staff, right? Because I can go on, I read every comment. I shouldn't, but I read every comment, and our staff read every comment. And it's like if Anthony Edwards has a tough shooting night or anything like that, comments go to, well, this business is terrible. Like they need to change leadership. They need to do that. But like our staff are great. And just seeing those types of things and managing to that within our organization, that's something that we have to be able to do on a regular basis. But this year, we just happen to be super lucky to be on the opposite side of that, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. Well, also when teams are doing well, is there a way that you can leverage that when it comes to employee retention, but also like recruiting and maybe getting more people into the org?
Yeah, I would say we kind of work in a little bit of a bubble because we haven't had that much success on the court. So again, with that 50-win mentality, we have a really great staff. Our engagement scores they range from 90 to 93, and that's when we're worried when we're in anything in the 80s. So we have been able to figure that out of keeping people engaged. Again, we segment just how we think about our staff. We are through our CEO, we're very people focused in how we lead. And this year we've been really fortunate. I think our turnover rate is maybe like 10 up to 11%, which is very good because working in sports, it seems glamorous, but it's nonstop. It's evenings, it's weekends. This year, I think the Lynx play on 4th of July, and then they play on the 6th. And that involves 250 people to make sure that those games happen. But it's exciting. It's really exciting. We also make sure to provide access to our staff that you wouldn't get if you're working at Walgreens or, I don't know, United Healthcare, no offense to anyone in here. But they can do open gym on the basketball courts. Our windows are all facing the practice facilities, so you can see the players working out. We have special team gear that we provide them. And today, Coach Reeve is providing lunch to all of the staff to kick off the home opener. And just making sure those little things are sprinkled here and there to really remind people, like, it's pretty special what we get to do. And we're really lucky with leadership on both our Timberwolves side and our Lynx side that they're highly engaged. They are included in our all-staff meetings. And we really try to work as an organization of one, even though we're essentially 4 little businesses working together.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm going to try to squeeze in one more question. We only got a couple seconds left, but it's fine. I moderate this. I have the power. I wanted to ask you, talked about Gen Z, and obviously you have a couple Gen Zers at home, so you know. How you said this generation is different. How do you help them, being that they are kind of a different breed, maybe more outspoken, maybe different motivations when it comes to work? How do you help them in career development and getting where they want to be?
Yeah, career development is like our big, hairy, audacious problem in our situation. We are a smaller organization. I think it's usually like a false understanding of what we do as a business. We have 250 staff within the team, and there's not a lot of room for up. So we've really had to be creative on creating that lattice of what our employees can do. And this year, I've been really focused on getting our job leveling tool put together, which it seems really basic, but working in sports, they're all privately owned for the most part. So it's kind of a mom and pop shop. So getting that in place where we can clearly identify what responsibilities people are doing and how they can get to the next roles, but also holding our managers accountable for leading and training and providing that growth opportunity for our staff. Because we definitely get all the questions within 6 months, okay, what's next, right? And we don't always have a what's next, but we definitely have more opportunities within the different types of business lines that we have. So it's a challenge, but it's definitely a challenge that I'm excited to overcome in the next couple of years here.
For sure. All right, that's all the time we have, but thanks, guys.
That went by really fast.
I know.